Today, it's the battle of the dead brand sports cars. I'm Justin.
And I am Aaron.
And this is Husman Bros. And before we go too much further, please subscribe for more great content like this down below. We are here at Texas Motor Works today.
That's right. Cousin Chris invited us out to check out a couple of, I'll say, rare cars. And what are we looking at today?
So we are looking at two basically identical cars inside. We have the Saturn Sky Redline. This is a 2007.
And this is a Pontiac Solstice GXP, also from 2007.
So what we have here are two more or less identical cars.
We'll call them similar.
We'll call them similar. The differences really are only cosmetic with these two cars. How many of those were built?
About 4,500.
About 4,200 of these were built as well.
In 2007, the GXP, the Redline, this was the upgraded model. This was a $2,700 upgrade.
So let's see how relatively rare these cars are. How many of these were built?
In 2007, Pontiac built roughly 4,500 Solstice GXPs in a convertible. And what about the Saturn?
Saturn built roughly 4,200 of the Redlines in a convertible. And we keep saying in a convertible because there is a rare version of these cars out there.
The clown shoe.
Now the clown shoe is a different car.
I know, but it's got that similar coupe.
Exactly. They made coupes of these cars where they only made a couple of hundred of these each year, and even fewer in the turbo or Redline version.
Now I think weren't those coupes coming out at the very tail end of the Marquis? They were burning out the last of the ideas that they had.
Now, we said at the top of this video, these are dead brands because we're going through some kind of recession or something right now, and about the time these cars were built, that was when we were going through another recession, and one of the costs of that recession were a lot of car brands.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you know about Pontiac?
Well, Pontiac, I know some about it, but I think you're a better history buff when it comes to Pontiac.
Okay.
I might know a little bit more about the Saturn.
So then first tell us about the Saturn, then I'll get into Pontiac.
Saturn was a brand that was around for a while. In fact, if you were in a coma long enough, you might have missed them altogether. But they existed from 1990 to 2010. And Saturn was famous for two big shticks. One, they used a lot of plastic panels to build their cars so you could get a ding and pop it out yourself. And the second thing is, no negotiating. The price that they listed was the price that you could buy the car for. So that brought Saturn a lot of fans. Then there was a Saturn Sky Redline, this one right here, which added a turbo to the four-cylinder and boosted the horsepower up to 260 horsepower. As we've mentioned a few times, these cars are really the same. On the inside, they are the same. The biggest difference between the Saturn and the Pontiac are the fascias. You got more chrome, as you can see on the front end of the Sky, and it's got a lot sharper angles on it. You can see a lot of the more sharp lines than you see in the Pontiac. So tell us a little bit about Pontiac as a brand.
So Pontiac's history is a little bit deeper than Saturn's. They lasted a lot longer than 20 years, and Pontiac fell in the GM hierarchy. So if you were a GM person, if you were a working man, you drove a Chevy, or a GMC if you needed a truck. Once you wanted sports, you went to Pontiac. Once you got that promotion, you got your Oldsmobile, and after that your Buick, which was the sportier Oldsmobile, and then if you really did well, you'd end up in a Cadillac. But all the fun cars came to Pontiac. You had your GTO, you had your Firebird, you had your Solstice, and this is a really fun car. Aaron talked about all the stats, and they're exactly the same. I won't repeat them again. 260 horsepower versus 177 for the stock one. About the same production, and this car is a softer car. You've got some of the same lines, but they're different. So this line is inboard as opposed to where it's outboard on that Sky, and the headlights are also very different. Very similar cars, very fun cars. Both of these cars are stick shifts. Even the wheels are largely the same. This is why the various car brands started to die off, why you don't have as many GM brands anymore, because they were selling the same car across multiple lines. So, is it worth buying one of these cars today? I think so. These are a tremendous amount of fun. They're roughly the same mileage, and for about 15 grand, you can pick up a really nice car like this and have a tremendous amount of fun. This is a fast, fun car, and we know that because we have a lot of experience driving that Sky. You've seen our dad in some of our videos, and that was his midlife crisis car. So we had plenty of time driving it while we were up visiting him in Iowa. Now, I think these cars are fantastic values for the money. Aaron, You've driven the regular Pontiac Solstice that Chris brought us to us last time, yeah?
I have. Technically, I've driven a Saturn Sky Redline as well. Yeah.
We've both driven that one lots of miles.
Just no video around to catch it, which is probably a good thing.
Right. The last time we did a convertible review, we didn't put the top down, so we're going to go ahead and do that this time. I'm going to have you do that so we don't get roasted.
Yeah, we got a little roasted last time, but this time we will have some topless action, but only on one thing. If you need multiple topless, you're going to have to get your kicks on another video.
Husman Bros After Dark, go check it out.
But let's put the top down on this one, and I'll get in, drive it, and really see what the difference is between a Solstice Standard and a GXP.
Give you some stats on this car, some interesting things here. So the original base price of one of these cars was $26,515. Here are some of the options and their cost if you want to go back in time. Air conditioning was an option at $960. I would challenge you to go to a car lot today and find a car without air conditioning standard. One of the other options was the $500 factory stereo. I'm going to tell you, if you go to a new dealership, you're going to pay a lot more for a factory stereo than that. And then the only other options really were the wheels at 18-inch chrome wheels for $500 for the set. And then the premium package, which presumably gave it the leather and everything else, for a total on this car of $30,600. Aaron, what's going on over here?
I can't figure out this top.
Well, maybe we should call cousin Chris in.
I think we should. We need an expert over here.
Okay, there is a special trick to putting the top down on one of these.
Yeah, you're gonna have to teach it to me. So I found this handle up top, but it's been quite a few years since I put the top down on one of these.
Yeah, so that's step one. Okay. Step two, in the glove box, there's a little button right here.
Oh, there
Push
we go.
that button. And that releases these flaps back here.
That's right.
And then once you do that, then we open this.
Okay.
And then we just
manually
pull the top back down,
nice and
push
easy.
that down, and just close this securely.
Okay.
And you are good to go.
All right.
Top down fun.
All right. Well, that's a beautiful day for a convertible. So let's get in and go. Right off the bat, it's really about what I see more than what I feel. I haven't even left the parking lot yet, but from what I see, it looks the same as the base model. This is a really simple interior. A lot of parts bin stuff. Justin likes comparing it to the Viper because the Viper is just kind of an interesting neon type of interior. But this is similar. I mean, it's just very simple, basic, not a lot in the gauges. Looks like the same dials that you would find in a Pontiac minivan or SUV, whatever they were selling those days. But from a performance standpoint, we're gonna get on it a little bit. I could feel a little bit more juice to it. It's a little livelier. I can't remember from the last video that we made the gauges. I mean, certainly there's a GXP logo on the gauges. I'm thinking the gauges are probably a little bit sportier upgrade. That's the kind of thing that you want. Ooh, a little juice. Not a ton of traction, maybe you need new tires, but I always enjoyed driving the Sky Redline when my dad had it, and it's lively. This is a fun little roadster. The steering is pretty tight. I gotta say, I can't feel much of a difference. They feel the same. You know, driving the Redline, my memories of that, this feels the same, and it should, because it's the same engine, it's the same drivetrain. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine and picture ourselves in 2007, and we are in the market for a new roadster. At the time, you've got a few options. Certainly, you've got the Pontiac and the Saturn, but outside of that, go a little cheaper, you get yourself into a Miata, but you're not gonna have as much horsepower. If you can spend a little bit more money, you can even go up to a Porsche. And obviously, a Porsche is gonna have more horsepower, but you're gonna pay significantly more for it. But there was also the Honda S2000, a great roadster for the time. And at the time, it maybe a couple of $1,000s more than the Saturn or the Pontiac. But I think if you'd have bought a S2000 over a Pontiac or a Saturn at that time and kept it, you'd be really happy with your choice because their value has stayed very strong. But the Honda would have been your closest competitor to the Saturn or the Pontiac. It had about the same amount of horsepower, it was a roadster, it was a two-seater, it was a turbo, and it only cost $2,000 more. Now, of course, with a roadster, one of the things you have to consider is that you're probably going to be able to make a lot fewer phone calls from the road because you're going to have wind noise. I'm not on a phone right now, I'm making a video, and so you can kind of judge for yourself the kind of wind noise that you're getting from sitting in this car. The Boxster, we talked about that you're gonna pay a lot more for that car, but it does have those features like that windscreen that's going to minimize the wind sound from in the cockpit. Of course, with a convertible, you do not have a full structure of a vehicle, so the vehicle is less rigid. This one did not come with a hardtop. You could not get that as a feature. A Miata does come in a convertible, obviously, but it has an available hardtop that you could get and put on it. I've also got the ability to put the hardtop on my 996, and I will say that with the hardtop, with the convertible top, it always makes some flex sounds when I'm pulling in and out and going up hills and going on different elevations. So if you really don't want that and that's going to make it sound like you have a bad car, don't worry about a hardtop. It's not going to sound any better or be any better. Now, if you want this car in a coupe, they are available, but they are rare because they were only maybe a one, I think maybe only 1, maybe 2 year option. I'd have to look that up. But they are out there, and I think they look pretty cool, and that would certainly give you a lot more structure to your vehicle. It's got some good pickup to it. If you're in the right gear, it can get up and go. Redline is about 6.5. I'm not pushing it all the way there. It's not my car, so I wouldn't do that. So with that at 6.5, that's about the same range as the Miata would be. But the S2000, the Porsche Boxster, those are gonna have even higher red lines, give you a better level of performance and get more juice out of each gear. Now, of course, like we said, this is a turbo. This one had a turbo, the S2000 had an available turbo. The Miata and the Porsche Boxster, those are both naturally aspirated, no option for a turbo, at least no manufacturer option for one. So this car has always been a pretty comfortable ride. This one, I don't feel any kind of difference. Obviously, maintenance is going to be a factor there, but it's got a pretty comfortable ride, real sporty feel, nice and firm. Like I said, it's got some good pickup to it. I like the cockpit. It's small, but it feels good. It's not cramped, and I'm 6'2", and I can get in here just fine. But it's nice. It's all right here with you, and all the gauges face you, and so everything is really easy to get to while you're driving, and so it can make for a really, really positive driving experience. Back here, you've got a little bit of a glove box and a cup holder. Cup holders, of course, are the first thing to break, and it is a hard thing to fix because the parts are not easy to find. And of course, the reason for that is they don't make these cars anymore, so they don't make the parts anymore. If you want to get replacement parts, you're gonna have to find them either on eBay or in a junkyard. But the good news is, it's a sport car, it's a stick. You really shouldn't be drinking anything while you're driving it anyway. And that's just not holier than thou. Don't drink and drive alcohol speak. I'm serious, don't drink any drink and drive a sports car. Drive the car and enjoy it, because this thing is a lot of fun to drive. So now that we're not living in the past, because it is not 2007 anymore, and we think about present day, what could I buy? Now this is going to set you back about $15,000. I do not have a Pontiac Solstice. I have a Porsche 911 996. It's going to run you more money. Well, what are the difference between? It's a Porsche versus a Pontiac. That alone should say it, but let me spell it out a little bit more. There is a good tight steering to this. I like that. The gas pedal, the clutch, they feel a little bit soft. They don't feel as firm as the 911 does. The steering is good, but the traction could be better. It's just a matter of really what is your budget. But if it's just a fun car that you want and you want to spend as little as possible, I think these Pontiacs and Saturns can be a really good option for you to get out, put the top down, enjoy a nice overcast day like today, and have fun. All right, at this point, Justin is probably wondering what happened to us because we've been out driving for a little while. So why don't we go ahead and head back to the garage and catch up with him and let him know what exactly we think about this car.
So how was it?
It was thrilling. No, it was cool. Reminded me a lot of driving Dad's.
So it must compare
Saturn.
pretty similar to this one, right?
Yeah.
Driving Dad's.
It is. So I've driven more performance cars since that point, and so this is, you can tell the difference. I mean, I drive a Porsche a lot, and so
I wouldn't say a lot, folks. He owns a Porsche.
That is true. I do own a Porsche, and I've driven it before, more recently than I've driven the Saturn Sky Redline.
You get a pass.
And so, obviously, there's a difference between a Pontiac and a Porsche, but I just think for the money, for 15 grand, this is a lot of fun car. Maybe that's not what you're looking for, but if you're looking for one of these cars, then I think it's going to be tough to decide. It really comes down to cosmetically which one is in better shape in terms of what's the best bang for the buck. Same.
I'd agree. I think that either car is going to be a ton of fun. It's what's available and what you can deal with, and really the things that are missing. So this has been a nice little comparison. Which is your favorite?
You know, I like the Saturn Redline. Okay. I just kind of enjoy the look of the Pontiac. I like the Pontiac brand. I've always loved the trademark front end of the Pontiac. It just has more history to it for me to latch on to. So I think they're very similar cars. Tough for me to say that, you know, I love that one more than this one. I just think the Pontiac is the one.
So it's kind of good that Pontiac passed away, because it didn't live long enough to be like BMW and watch those little grills grow to take over the whole car. I, for one, like the Sky just a little better. Again, performance, similar. I like the layout of the cockpit of the Sky a little bit better, and I do like the angular lines. I like chrome, I like shiny things. This car has enough of it for me. So, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned, because we are going to do a buyer's guide for these cars. Some of the things to look out for when you're buying them. Look for that in the channel soon. Thanks for watching.
Come back and see us.